حي على السلام حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح حي على خير العمل حي على خير العمل الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله الذي كان موجودا يبقى بعد فناء الأشياء تفرد بالأولية والقدم ووسم كل شيء ما عداه بالفناء والعدم كما قال عز شان كل شيء هالك إلا وجهه وكل نفس ذائقة الموت وقال كل من عليها فان ويبقى وجه ربك ذو الجلال والإكرام سبحان من لا يخفى عليه اختلاف النيات ولا يعزب عنه معاصي العباد في الخلوات سبحان الله الذي منه خلقة العباد وإليه المعاد فمن يعمل مثقال ذرة خيرا يرى ومن يعمل مثقال ذرة شرا يرى نشهد أن لا إله إلا هو الملك الذي لا ينازع في ملكه ولا يضاد في حكمه يعذب من يشاء بما يشاء كيف يشاء ويرحم من يشاء بما يشاء كيف يشاء تعذيبه المسيئين عدل وعفو التفضل ونشهد أن محمدا سيد المرسلين وخير المبشرين والمنذرين صلى الله عليه وآله الهداة المهديين من ركب سفينة النجاة واهتدى ومن تخلف عنها غرق فغرق وهوى أوصيكم عباد الله بالاتسام بالتقوى فإنه حبل متين وعروة وثقى فقال الله تبارك وتعالى وقوله الحق وهو أصدق القائلين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إن الشيطان لكم عدو فاتخذوه عدوا إنما يدعو حزبه ليكونوا من أصحاب السعير. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. I would like to begin by advising myself and all of you to adopt the taqwa of Allah as is the best of provisions. To all the viewers online, in this online streaming of this Jumah Khutbah, we begin with the discussion on this ayat which I recited from Surah Fatir, ayat number 6. In which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala highlights our biggest enemy, and that enemy is referred to as shaitan. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala clearly states in this ayah that shaitan is indeed your enemy. So treat him as an enemy. Where you might raise a question saying that who amongst us does not consider shaitan to be an enemy? But it is when it unfolds we will realize how and what it is being referred to. So it says, shaitan is indeed your enemy, so treat him as your enemy. He only invites his confederates so that they may be among the inmates of the blaze. And of course, this blaze is referring toward Jahannam and the hell and the fire of Jahannam. So we understand from this ayat that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is clearly highlighting for us our open enemy. He says, we all have two of our biggest enemies amongst other enemies that people may develop over the years due to their conflicts and differences and other things which might lead to some enmity, which is worldly, of course. Maybe someone in business, someone, for example, outside of business, at your other places, or maybe within the family, amongst the spouses, even amongst the brothers, there's some enmity, even amongst the family members, your extended family, there might exist some sort of, grudge, and it leads to enmity, unfortunately. So you might create enemies and you're always on the lookout for it, right? So, well, that person is my enemy. And the fact that I consider him or her my enemy, or they consider me their enemy, there's always what? There's always a chance that they might try to harm me. Whatever the opportunity they will get, they will try and inflict some sort of harm upon me. So what do I do when I know this physical enemy, which is there? I made this enemy because of my business practices, or because we did not get along and we ended up having some sort of financial struggles with each other, or other reasons for which we develop this enmity. I'm always on the lookout for it, that person, whenever he or she gets an opportunity, they're going to go ahead and utilize it to harm me. So we're always on the lookout from this physical enemy of ours, which we have created in this world to protect ourselves from. But then why is it that we see that a lot of time when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is clearly pointing out that the shaitan is your open enemy, still we are what? Still we show ourselves to be confederate of the shaitan. We show it to be the hizb of shaitan. We consider ourselves to be those who are listening and constantly paying heed to this shaitan. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala points out those who are strong and knowledgeable. Both of these enemies that Allah is pointing out are strong and knowledgeable. Although in this ayat, there's only one enemy which is being pointed out, which is shaitan. But the other one that is mentioned is nafs-e-insan, your own internal soul, your own internal nafs rather, instead of soul, your nafs, which dictates sometimes and becomes your biggest enemy because it's internal. In fact, sometimes it is considered to be bigger than shaitan. Shaitan is going to attack you from external. He's going to provide means for you to fall into a ditch, which will all be external. But this internal enemy of yours is going to do things so subtly that you won't even realize. So therefore, these are the two enemies which are being highlighted over here. Shaitan, he used to go after the prophets. Look at his audacity. Jur'at, that forget about you and I who are sinful people anyway. Shaitan used to attack the prophets. He used to attack the infallibles. He used to go after imams. And he does that repeatedly thinking that he might get lucky. Although he acknowledges himself in Quran that I will misguide everyone. I'll try my best to misguide everyone except those of your salih ibad, those who are the subservient servants of yours, those who are righteous servants of yours. And that salihin in this ayat refers to the word ma'sumin, especially the anbiya. But we have a lot of stories that he tried to go after, even though that he knows that they are ma'soom, they are, they cannot commit mistakes, they cannot make sins, do sins, still he's trying to go ahead and provide means to make them commit some sort of mistake. So similarly, another enemy which is bigger than shaitan is this nafs of insan. It's the internal enemy. While shaitan is external, soul of insan is aware of every move that we make, and not just every move, every thought that we run through our heads. So when this internal enemy of yours is aware of you so much, knows what you're thinking about, then it'll be able to provide means for you. It'll be able to bring ideas to you so that you fall into further ditch. Everyone is born with a shaitan alongside with him. This might surprise you. This is the Prophet's hadith. Our Prophet said, and I was surprised when I read this hadith as well. He said, I converted my shaitan into submissive, being my own submissive and being a Muslim. So every person is born with a shaitan alongside with them. It's not that mean, there's a shaitan that is born alongside with you, literally, but there's a shaitan which, because of the army of shaitan, there's a shaitan which is going to accompany you to go ahead and misguide you. Prophet said, I converted mine to be submissive, to become Muslim. Therefore, I don't have to worry about that shaitan. Now, it's probably hypothetically speaking, giving us an example that we should be aware that we're sometimes in denial, right? A lot of things, when they were happening, especially, for example, when we were hit with this pandemic, a lot of us, had doubts. We were suspicious about the authenticity of it. Is it really true? Is it really happening? When it was happening in another country and it hadn't hit us, we were doubtful of the nature of this pandemic or this virus. And then once it started hitting us, then we started opening our eyes, we started realizing it, and still some of the leaders of our country still had doubts about it until they themselves were afflicted by this virus. I guess the doubts are resolved. We cannot focus on what caused it to happen. That is when you deal with this thing, in the aftermath. Usually the saying is, when the house is on fire, you don't mow the lawn, right? What mowing the lawn is going to do when the house is on fire? So you have to put out the fire first. That's the burning issue. If the house does not survive this fire, no matter how beautiful your lawn looks, it's not going to matter. So therefore, go ahead and put out the fire first and then go worry about the beautification of this lawn of yours. Similar is the case when we are hit with this pandemic. Make sure that we hit the solution. We go for the solution. We find the cure for it. And then once that is done, then we deal with what caused it to happen, those legal penalties that might be inflicted on certain countries or certain people or those who were behind it. That stuff could be taken care of later. But at the moment, the main thing should be to save lives. So a lot of time comparing this, Rasulullah has given this example to us. So Shaitan swore to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He made this covenant. He said what? He said, "Qala fa bi'izzatika." Allah, with the izzat and the honor that you possess, لَأَغْوِيَنَّهُمْ أَجْمَعِينَ إِلَّا إِبَادَكَ مِنْهُمُ الْمُخْلَصِينَ. That he said, by your might, I will surely pervert them except your exclusive servants among them. So even Shaitan knows that there are people that he won't be able to go ahead and persuade and will not be able to misguide. Shaitan attacks from outside. Prophets gave, this protection. They guided us from outside. So prophets served as the shield for this external shaitan of ours. Shaitan penetrates inside, and while aql is placed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to tackle the shaitan, which is the internal shaitan of ours. So while we look at these two enemies of ours, let's recap. This first is the external enemy, which is in the form of shaitan. Allah provided prophets to tackle this external shaitan. What did the prophets do? They constantly reminded us that there is this enemy that exists that you have to be aware of. Just like you and I, when we create our enemies in this world based on our differences and disputes and conflicts, and we're always on the lookout for them from those enemies, then similarly, prophets are telling us that the shaitan is your biggest enemy. Make sure that you look out for him and don't fall in the victim of the shaitan. So they provided this guidance, and that guidance will continue until this earth is existing, or at least until that shaitan is existing. Trying to make a point over here. That shaitan said to Allah, okay, you want me out of this paradise? At least let me live, until the day of judgment. Allah said, okay, but not until the day of judgment, until waqtin ma'loom, that day which is appointed day. Mufassirin mentioned that day is the day when Imam of our time, Imam Mahdi Ajjallahu Ta'ala Farajul Sharif, will reappear. So with that said, we understand while Allah is giving respite to the one who is going to misguide you, you think Allah is not going to give respite to the one who's going to guide you? That is one of the proofs of the existence of 12th Imam. The concept that we have of the Imam of our time is what? That he's in the ghaibat. He's not someone who will be born one day, as many think. No, he's in ghaibat, and he will remain until that time, that appointed time. So shaitan is given respite until then. So whenever there's an external enemy, this will be external attack on this enemy through the Masumeen, prophets, and then in the sequence of Imams. Second is your internal enemy. How are we going to protect ourselves from that? So, well, you have these desires which sometimes govern your life. Allah has placed this aql for you as well. He's giving you this intellect as well. He's given you this sound ability to discern between right and wrong. So you should be able to remove any doubts that these desires or this nafs is placing inside your heart. So we see from this aspect, the obvious question everyone has is, what is the reason behind creating shaitan as a misguiding and a deviating creature? While Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had all the power in the world to remove the shaitan, when he said to him, get out of this paradise, فَخْرُجْ مِنْهَا, and you have my curse until, you have my curse and get out of here. He could have just destroyed him and destroyed all of the shayateen. All Allah would have to do is say kun, and it'll be. Why didn't he do that? Why did he leave us in this, this misery? I want to use the word misery. That there's always this enemy which is there to misguide us. How could that be how could that be serving any purpose? How could that be fruitful? There's, easy to understand this. Number one, Allah did not create shaitan as shaitan. We need to understand that. Although the ayat of Quran says he was always amongst the kafirin, because he was praying amongst the angels, but he was always a disbeliever until Allah showed it to everyone. When he asked him to go ahead and prostrate in front of Hazrat Adam, he failed to do so. But Allah did not create shaitan as shaitan. Proof for such a claim would be that he was, he accompanied the angels and the worshippers for many years. 6,000 is something which we have received in the riwayat. But later he took the path of disobedience by his own free will, and then later he was distanced from the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The concept of la'nat is that he was distanced from the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So from this we understand what? That he was not created to be shaitan always. He was given the free will to choose the right path. All the angels chose the right path. He could have chosen the similar path had he wanted, but he did not. Number two, the existence of shaitan is not harmful for believers and those who are determined to take the path of truth. Instead, it can be help for these believers in the path of progress. I'll explain. You can progress, you can develop, and you can reach perfection, because progress, improvement, and development can only take place when there's what? Opposite forces. If nobody's challenging you, if nobody's pointing you and he's not becoming an obstacle in your path, then you're not going to be able to progress. If there's no one stopping you, no one's getting in your way, then you're not going to be able to move forward. The only way you move forward and have any sort of improvement and progress is when you have an obstacle in front of you that challenges you, and you take this challenge and you accept this challenge and you move forward with this challenge. So the only role shaitan plays in this world is the role of tempting people, meaning that he only calls people towards the wrong path, and Allah has not granted him any sort of authority over you. And these are the ayat that are repeated in Quran where Allah says he does not have any sulta. He does not have any authority over you. All he does is, like, I can serve as a shaitan, come and do waswas in your ears. I could be a friend of someone, and I could be a good friend by giving them good advice, or I could be a bad friend by giving them bad advice, by leading them to make mistakes. So I can go ahead and misguide someone so easily. I could serve as a shaitan, but at the same time, I can serve as a good person. But I don't have any authority. I'm not going to be able to force someone into doing something wrong. You're my friend, but I'm not going to force you into doing something wrong because I don't have that authority. Now, maybe I have this sort of authority over my children, I may force them to do certain things, but I don't have authority over others. So shaitan is the same way. He has the ability to go around and do waswas and whisper and to go ahead and misguide people, but does not have the ability to go ahead and become what? Sultan, have any sort of authority. As Allah says, إِنَّهُ لَيْسَ لَهُ سُلْطَانٌ عَلَى الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَلَى رَبِّهِمْ يَتَوَكَّلُونَ. Indeed, he does not have any authority over those who have faith and put their trust in their Lord. So if you have faith in Allah, if you believe in the prophets, if you believe in this religion, if you believe in all of the other things that this religion demands from you, then shaitan is not going to have any authority over you. Yes, you might fall victim to his tactics here and there, but he will never be able to gain that absolute control over you. وَمَا كَانَ لِي عَلَيْكُمْ مِنْ سُلْطَانٍ إِلَّا أَنْ دَعَوْتُكُمْ فَاسْتَجِبْتُمْ لِي. And also, and for this reason, when a group of people will confront shaitan on the day of judgment, they'll say, this guy, this is the one who misguided us. This is the one who had authority over us. Shaitan will respond by saying, I had no authority over you, except that I called you and you responded to my call. That's all I did. I did not force you. I did not put a gun to your head saying, you must do this. I only called you. But my methods of calling you were, of course, great, were, of course, decorated. I presented even the ugliest and the worst and the vicious of the deeds as something very presentable and beautiful, and you jumped towards it. And that was the only thing. But the teachings that we receive from Quran show that shaitan's role in misleading man is confirmed, or is only confined rather to the areas of him just providing this misguidance, nothing more than that. So as long as you have faith, as long as you believe, as long as you are a believer and have firm faith, then shaitan will not be able to gain any sort of authority. But the moment you lose this faith, it says, إِنَّمَا سُلْطَانُهُ عَلَى الَّذِينَ يَتَوَلَّوْنَهُ. Surah Nahl, ayat number 100. So first I said he does not have any authority over you as long as you have faith. But then the very next ayah says he has authority. His authority is only over those who befriend him and those who make him partners of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So from here we understand, if we were to do shirk, if we were to go ahead and commit any sort of polytheism, if we were to do any of these things, then of course shaitan will be able to gain that control over us. In this second part, I wanted to touch briefly about the role, how sometimes people play the role of shaitan. And Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib والسلام, in Nahj al-Balagha, letter number 63 to Abu Musa al-Ash'ari, who played a very cunning role in the history of Islam, especially after the Battle of Siffin, the man that happened, that he went about, served as someone who's neutral to go ahead and pass a judgment between the two leaders, one Ali ibn Abi Talib and second Amir Sham. He said, I'll be, he was chosen, that you are most senior and you can come and go ahead and judge between these two. So Imam writes to him, وَمِن كِتَابٍ كَتَبَهُ إِلَىٰ أَبِي الْمُوسَى Ash'ari, who was, of course, in Kufa. Imam, let me just background of this Abu Musa is better known. His name was Abdullah ibn Qais. Of course, he's known as Abu Musa al-Ash'ari. Was a man with weak faith, according to our narrations, more inclined to look after his worldly interests than cause for the religion. The beginning of the caliphate of Imam Ali, he was in Kufa. When he learned that Talha and Zubair and al-Mu'mineen had revolted against the caliphate of Imam Ali, he declared a war against him and made Basra to be the headquarters, and started, mobilizing people an army against them, and had invited the people of Kufa to join him. And so Imam writes this letter to him, said, these people, Talha, Zubair, and al-Mu'mineen, they are causing this revolt, and I need people. So all of you come along. But then he plays this double role. So what is the role that he played? He played the role of saying, though Ali was lawful caliph of the Muslims, yet it was not correct for him to fight against other Muslims. This is what he said. Abu Musa said this. Although he's the rightful caliph, he's chosen, he's amongst the Khulafa al-Rashideen, but he should not have fought against other Muslims. So if that was the criteria, then previous caliphs had done similar things in their time when other Muslims had revolted. But aside from that, Imam Ali came to know this, and professing his faith in him, Imam was believed that maybe there's some change of heart in him. So let me go ahead and inquire about it before passing any judgment. Now Imam is showing good faith, but this is where we understand how this person had already been manipulative. So Imam writes this letter. He says, "Min Abdullah Ali Amir al-Mu'mineen ila Abdullah ibn Qais amma ba'd." He said, from the servant of Allah Ali ibn Abi Talib, to Abdullah ibn Qais, let it be known to you that I have received reports which may be considered favorable to you, and yet at the same time they may be deemed against you. So these reports could either go in your favor or go against you. And then he said that you on one hand declare me to be the lawful caliph, and in the same breath you persuade others not to come and help me. The people of Basra, you are persuading them that don't go help Ali. While Ali needs help, you're telling he's Khalifatul Muslimin, he's in need of help, he can call anyone to help. If the government or the country that we live in, if it summons each and every single one of us to the war front, if that was a need, as for example, you remember that war between Iran and Iraq in the decade of the 80s, a lot of civil people were called to come to the borders to protect, because that's what was the need at the time. The military was not enough. So they summoned anyone who could sign up, and they exhorted people to take part in it. And many people did so, and therefore you find there's so many shuhada out of that. So it is possible that the government may summon us, because that's something which we have already given as authority to them, that they can call upon us. Of course, they'll put us through some sort of test, and they'll pick only the best amongst us. But there, Imam al-Islam is saying, I need people, send them over. Well, what are you doing? You're playing this double role. While you're saying Ali is on haq, he's the rightful caliph. But at the same time, I don't think he's doing the right thing by fighting against other Muslims. Imam said, as soon as my messenger reaches you, these are strong words. So I'll just read the translation, I'll conclude. Imam said, as soon as my messenger reaches you, get ready, come out of your retreat, invite your people to join me, and come yourself as well. This is coming from the leader of the community. This is coming from Khalifatul Muslimin. This is coming from Imam al-Muttaqin, who's, according to their belief, is amongst the Khulafai Rashideen. He said what? Once you receive my message, I want you to get ready, come out, and then invite your people to join me, and you too come. It's a strong message that he's receiving. If you are convinced that I am on the right side, then you must come to my help. And if you feel uncertain, nervous, or timid, then leave. Fab'ad, go away, and then join the other party. You're more than welcome to do so. And then Imam says, I swear by Allah that I shall not let you waver or adopt a double cross policy. Because what I'm seeing right now is you're trying to be nice to both people. While you're saying to the people who are my followers that, oh, Ali is right. He's the rightful caliph. But at the same time, you're telling the people on the other camp that what he's doing against the Muslims is not right. And that is a double face, and that is a double cross. I will not let you live in this double cross policy. I shall not allow you to sit peacefully at home with a double face, one for each party, and I shall expose you to the people. So Imam is open all writing this letter to him, threatening him. He said, you will find yourself under suspicion from either group, and you'll be forced to declare your true inclination. And then there's a prophecy in it as well. What future holds for you? Because he's Imam al-Muttaqeen, he knows what future holds for you. Remember when Imam Hussein said to Umar Asad that forget the city of Ray, you'll not be able to taste the bread of the city of Ray. That's the prophecy that Imam is giving. That you're promised that after you kill me, you're going to get the governance of city of Ray. You won't even be able to taste the bread over there. That means what? You'll never go there. They'll never give it to you. This is all a plot. But of course, they were not listening to the right people. So Imam said what? He said, this revolt, which has made Basra as its headquarters, so Talha, Zubair, and Mu'mineen, they made what? Basra to be their headquarters, is not an easy joke, as you have imagined it to be. It is a great tragedy, and it shall have very far-reaching effects. It has to be faced with the calamities which accompany or which will follow it. It will have to be fought and to get the better off of it. And then Imam concludes by saying, therefore, I advise you, think carefully, control your weak and wavering mind, face your people bravely. And if you're not satisfied with me or have no faith in me, then you can, with complete freedom, go to the other side. You have my unreserved permission. I'm lifting my authority from you, but I'm sure you will not be welcome there either. You're thinking by saying that, oh, I can be a peacemaker between the two. I can call Ali to be correct, and I can also keep a neutral face over here. So no, while you're thinking this way, but you don't know the end result. I'm telling you what the end result is, that you will not be welcomed over there either. And if you remain in my camp, I shall not allow you to enjoy a restful sleep when Islam itself is in troubles and at war with the rebels. I swear by Allah that this decision of mine is the right step of a faithful Muslim in the right direction. And then, of course, the khutbah concludes at this point where we see that how Imam ﷺ, now picture yourself in the next couple of minutes. Picture yourself, you're the Khalifatul Muslimin, you're the Imam of Muslimin, and you're facing this civil war, attack from within. There's a force that is trying to attack you, which is carrying great people, and I'm putting great in the quotations because to them there are still great people. Amongst them is Mu'mineen, amongst them is Talha and Zubair. That of all the people, these are very significant people. So how is it possible that you're going to go ahead and sit back and relax? So Imam is facing a lot of tension over here. If it was just ordinary people coming up, we can still easily squash them. But if it is these people who are of some caliber, who know that, there's some sort of background that they have, there's some credibility that is behind them. That's a very difficult task that Imam has up ahead of him. And this is an unrest which is going to lead to what Imam is saying, calamity. And if you go ahead and study the damage of Battle of Jamal, you'll understand the calamity that it had caused. And it rests on the shoulders of these individuals. But today, when you think about this, which happened 14 centuries ago, people are giving free pass to those who stood up against Imam Ali. Today, Muslims are facing the same thing. They're facing this internal war by what? By those who are standing either in the party of Ali or in the party of someone who is the opposite of Ali. Today, you have the same conundrum, right? Where there's a party of Ali, those who are called, let me introduce a new term. There are Shia of Ali, and then there's the Shia of Muawiyah. These are the two parties that you see today in the world. They're not Shia Ali, and at the same time Shia Ali, they're also Shia of others. There's no concept of Shia. I'm using as a term of Quran, not as the madhab of Shia. So don't look at that saying, oh, you're Shia, you're wearing this black turban and you're Shia, and you're gonna say, of course, Shia. No, innahu min shi'atihi la Ibrahim, as Quran says. That Ibrahim was a Shia of Hazrat Nuh alayhi salatu wasalam. Or the two parties that Hazrat Musa alayhi salatu wasalam had. One was Shi'atihi, one was, and the other one was Adubihi. One was his enemy and the one was his followers. I'm using that terminology of the word Shia. That there's a party which is the follower of Ali, and there's a party which is the follower of Muawiyah. And there was an open war between them at that time. And unfortunately, if you try to fix that, what happened in the past, you will continue to have that sort of a struggle. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us a tawfiq that are able to tackle with this external enemy of ours, which is in the form of shaitan, and also we're able to tackle that internal enemy of ours, which is in the form of this nafs that we have. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to hasten zuhur, our awaited Imam, inna hasan hadith, wa ablagh al-mawidha kitabullah, a'udhu billahi minash shaitan ar-rajim, bismillahir rahmanir rahim, wa la surinna al-insana lafi khusr, illa alladhina amanu wa amilu as-salihat, wa tawasaw bil haqqi wa tawasaw bis sabr. Allah. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله الذي لا اله الا هو الحليم الكريم غافر الذنب وقابل التوب وهو الغفور الرحيم سبحان من سبقت رحمته وغضبه وبسط اليدين بالرحمة سبحان من لم يكلف نفسا الا دون وسعها وعفى عن السيئات ولم يجاز بها سبحان من لا يزداد على معاصي العباد الا كرما وجودا ولا كثرة الذنوب الا عفوا وصفحا نشهد ان لا اله الا هو لطوف على العباد بجوده والعقاد والمظلمين بحلمه ونشهد ان محمد نبيه وحبيبه وسيد المرسلين وشفيع المذنبين نبينا محمد رحمة للعالمين صلى الله عليه وآله ألا قد أمركم الله في محكم كتابه بالصلاة على نبيه وحبيبه فقال تعليما لكم وتشريفا للصفية إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما اللهم صل على سيد المرسلين وشفيع المذنبين نبينا محمد صلى الله عليه وآله وعلى إمام المسلمين وقائد الغر المحجلين أمير المؤمنين علي بن أبي طالب صلوات الله وسلامه عليه وعلى سيدة نساء العالمين وبذة خاتم النبيين سيدتنا فاطمة بنت رسول الله صلوات الله عليها والحسن المجتبى والحسين الشهيد بكربلاء وعلي بن الحسين ومحمد بن علي وجعفر بن محمد وموسى بن جعفر وعلي بن موسى ومحمد بن علي وعلي بن محمد والحسن بن علي عليهم الصلاة والسلام اللهم صل على مولانا صاحب الزمان ما هي آثار البدع والطغيان هادم أبنية الشرك والنفاق حاسد فروع البغي والشقاق صلوات الله وسلامه عليه وعلى آبائه الكرام ما اتصلت الليالي والأيام اللهم عجل فرجه وسهل مخرجه واكحل ناظرنا بنظرة منا إليه واجعلنا من المستشهدين بين يديه وتفضل على أمراء المؤمنين بمزيد التوفيقات وازدياد الإقبال وعلو الدرجات اللهم افعل بنا ما أنت أحل ولا تفعل بنا ما نحن أحل بجاه محمد وآله المعصومين صلوات الله عليهم أجمعين اللهم اجعلنا ممن يذكر فتنفعه الذكر إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون